Well, for more on the ongoing migration concerns impacting Venezuela and its neighbors, I'm joined by Dany Bahar, a David M. Rubenstein Fellow in the Global Economy and Development Program at the Brookings Institution. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start with these preferred migration routes for those leaving Venezuela. Where are they headed and why?
Well, most of them are heading to Colombia, and from there, many of them are going to other countries in the region. The interesting thing here is that as hyperinflation is happening, the savings of these people are being completely depleted. So their ability to get farther away, it's also being diminished significantly. So you now see people, whereas a few months ago they were taking buses to get to other countries such as Ecuador, Peru, Chile, some of them are now walking throughout the continent just to find a way where they can live.
And so you have some of these cities in neighboring countries that were already struggling economically, and now they're also having to manage this sudden influx of thousands and thousands of migrants, really all taking a strain on resources. So what are the strategies that some of these neighboring governments are using, not just to help manage the flow of migrants, but also try and reduce some of the friction between locals?
Well, I think that now what we see in the region is a little bit of desperation, perhaps, from governments, because these countries were not used to get migrants. Ironically, the country that in Latin America that by definition was the one receiving migrants was Venezuela for many decades. And now a lot of them are acting out of fear. But the thing here, I strongly believe, based on my research, my own research and many of others, is that this could actually become an economic opportunity for these countries if proper public policy were to be done. So these countries, they fear of hurting the local populations, but in fact we know that these migrants could be more entrepreneurial, they could even create jobs. So it's all about public policy, and they're just trying to get it right.
Because there is that fear, there's always that perception when it comes to migration that this new community is going to come and take away jobs. Talk about some of the misperceptions around this migration.
Well, if you just look at data in the US, we know that migrants are about 15% of the US population, but they represent 25% of entrepreneurs. And the reason for this is that the act of migrating itself is an act of risk-taking. And that's one of the most important, or the most important characteristics of an entrepreneur. So you also have a lot of people that are coming with different skills, and they also help others to become more productive. And that's actually what you see across all countries when you look at data. And that's why I think providing these people with the right to work and giving them a status in which they will have certainty, it could be at the end very beneficial for these countries.
So then as you have these people leaving and along with them their skills, what does this mean in terms of the long-term impact of Venezuela when you have this essentially a brain drain with all these people leaving?
Well, you know, the economy in Venezuela is in very, very bad shape, just to use a mild word. And it has nothing to do with the brain drain. It has to do with it's a man-made disaster by the government. So I think that these people are really fleeing for their lives. If they stay in Venezuela, it's hard for them to find food, to find medicines. They die from preventable diseases. So in the short term, I don't think that this explains the huge crisis. But what I can say, I think, is that in the long term, these people, if they settle in other countries, they learn from other experiences, they will be the key for the reconstruction of Venezuela.
So also talk about some of the other economic impacts that come with this crisis.
Well, one of the most important ones is that in the short term, you have a lot of people that are in the need of medical attention, or you have to get some of these kids into school. And of course, this infrastructure is limited, particularly in Latin America, that is lagging behind in terms of infrastructure. And this is why these meetings that are happening in these days are so important, because once you're able to create a comprehensive response that involves all the region can really go to the international community and really ask for more significant donations. Just to give you an idea, so far, the international community, the US mainly, has given about $70 million for this crisis. But if you look at the Syrian crisis, the world as a whole has given more than $30 billion since 2012. So there is plenty of capacity of the international community to come and help, but it requires the region to really set up a comprehensive strategy that will allow these people to settle in and help them.
Now, the Venezuelan government is essentially denying that there is a migrant crisis. How much of a stumbling block is that then when you have this international community who wants to weigh in and help, but you also have Venezuela saying, no, we don't have a problem?
Well, the Venezuelan government denies not only that, they deny everything that is happening in the country. For them, there's no economic crisis either. And that's part of their speech in order to stay in power as much as they can by any means. They have to go to any kind of fiction, basically, to try to convince themselves that things are going well. But by any socioeconomic indicator that you will look, even including some official sources, the situation in Venezuela is a humanitarian crisis that is even worse than many countries that are in war.
All right, well, thank you so much for your insights. Dany Bahar there from the Brookings Institution.